Welcome to this lecture where we will understand the basics of transaction functions. The topics that we will cover are: what are the specific terms related to transaction functions, and we will see what is the procedure for measuring transaction functions. First, what are the specific terms related to transaction functions? Let us start with the phrase control information. Control information is also data stored and viewed like any other normal data, but this data will specify how, what and when data should be processed. Let us take the example of a logistics application where, when creating a freight, whether to consider percentage of net, a flat rate or rate per local factor can be chosen, which will influence how the freight information is processed. Also, there is interest and discount related data where the user can set the annual interest rate, the discount percentage and the minimum interest amount. All this data will influence how the freight will be processed. So all these are control information. They are otherwise like data, but they will influence on how, when and what data should be processed. Similarly, in another example, a user's data preferences can be set based on which the user can enter and view data. So all these are also control information. So from function point analysis perspective, control information is synonymous with data. Next, we will look at a phrase called altering application behavior. This means that the way information processing or storage or input or output happens is modified. For example, a user can set whether to apply or not to apply certain business rules while performing a transaction. Another example is the ability to choose the language of an application. At the click of one button, the application could switch between languages. Next, we will see a key term called elementary process. In function point analysis, elementary process is that smallest unit of activity which is meaningful to the user. Here, meaningfulness means from an information processing perspective, the software application should be satisfying a certain business information need of the user. When we elicit requirements from the requirements providers, they will come up with many business processes. We will have to look at how to group them or to break a business process into that elementary process which is meaningful to the business user and is also the smallest unit of activity done from the information processing perspective. Examples of elementary processes are order submission, viewing pending orders, creating invoice, etc. Another term that we use frequently in transactions is file type referenced or FTR. Here it means those files which are referenced by a transaction. The file could be an internal logical file, an ILF, or it could be an EIF. The definition says a file type referenced is a data function maintained and or read by a transaction function. Now we will see what is the procedure to measure transaction functions. The first step is to identify the elementary processes. Then to determine the unique elementary processes among the identified ones. Then to classify each transaction, and finally to determine the functional complexity and thereby the size in function points. Thank you.